Good morning, Magic players. Welcome to the morning show where we discuss all things Magic the Gathering, where you get to interact with the streamer, get your questions answered. We do Q&A and general Magic discussion. And boy, are there things to discuss today. Valki, God of Lies, has lied to us all. He's actually a supreme god of all the gods. Tibalt Cosmic Imposter is completely taking over all formats and all meta games. And we also do Decklist reviews. So if you've got a 75 you want some feedback on, you've been pushing lists of all sorts of pros on Twitter, bring it over here. Both myself and the community, we can give you that feedback. A lot of fun. We also like to see very new, unique brews and people trying to tweak their deck for the current meta game. So brew up your cup of coffee and let's brew up some Magic conversation. Welcome to Coffee and MTG for February 9th, 2021. I'm your host, Nikachu, Merfolk Master. And what a wonderful morning we're going to have. Andreas Pearson, good afternoon. Good morning, DeadGuy Red. Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Sam and Benjamin. So, I mean, if you haven't heard the news... And I was so surprised, like Valki is really taking over, and they put the test of Valki in the modern challenges, in the legacy challenges. I'm surprised we don't even see. I don't know how long it's going to be until it takes over vintage, just like Oko Thief of Crowns has. I mean, let's go get Valki over on the. Valki is just supreme nonsense. I mean, it looked innocent enough. I mean, the front half is like, it's an okay card. It's good. It's good and all that. But it's not like overpoweringly great. And the back half, 7 mana, like this is totally fair. You basically draw. I mean, as a lot of people in my comments section have mentioned, you can cast cards exiled with Tibalt, and what you can do with the +2 is exile the top card of each player's library, and boom, that's basically you're drawing 2 cards a turn. One from your opponent's side, one on your side. The ridiculous thing is you can spend any mana to cast any of the spells. So you can use any mana of your own to cast your opponent's spells. So you've got red and black mana. Sure, cast blue and green stuff. Why not? But, you know, it's not so fair if you can get it out on turn 2. It's not so fair if you can get it out on turn 3 through the cascade spells. And even some people have done it on turn 1. There is a famous video circulating on Twitter with Saffron Olive, who did pull off the turn 1 Valki, God of Cascade into Tibalt Cosmic Imposter. Turn 0. It was at their opponent's upkeep. Put Gemstone Caverns in play, exile 2 Simian Spirit Guides, boom, Violent Outburst, you got it, it's over, GG. So anyway, a lot of things to talk about here. And unlike Oko, like, the streamers are boycotting this. Even Sodek just made a tweet this morning saying, fuck it, I don't like playing in winters. Not gonna play. The man who contributes to winters doesn't like to play in winters. Interesting. So a lot of content creators, I mean, that's a big problem for Wizards when their content creators don't want to make content for the formats that they play. But we're going to keep making the content. You know, rain, shine, hail, storm, tornado, tsunami. Merfolk isn't going anywhere. DeadGuy Red. Nikachu, new to Magic the Gathering Online. How does the ELO system work on Magic the Gathering Online? Is it like chess? If so, what consistent ELO range is considered good? Yes, it is like chess, except there's more variance, like a lot more variance. I mean, you could be more random. You're paired more in the leagues based on your record, not your ELO. So there's huge swings. Whereas in a tournament, you will, I mean, usually record is correlated with, I would say there's enough variance in Magic. Normally record is correlated with ELO. But there's so much variance in Magic that you can easily be like, you could be 1800 and you get paired up by a 1500 or something. And you can lose. You can just lose. You can just get mana screwed and just lose. I would say, from my experience, if you're, I think it starts you off at 1650 or 1600. I think 1650 is the starting point. If you get to 1700s, particularly 17, like if you're doing what better than usual if you're at 1700. If you're at 1750 or higher, then you're good. If you're at 1800 or higher, you're very good. Now you start getting into that top 5% range of players who, like, I I think the people who consistently make top 8s online on some semi-regular basis, they're about 1,800. And then if you're like the best player on the server, you're like 1,900. There are a few people, they are just so good with their deck. They're playing with the best deck. They're on top of the world. They can get to 1,900, but that's very rare. I've never even gotten to 1,900. Was I ever close? No, I did get to 1,900 once for a few matches. That once happened because I chained a bunch of good modern challenges, but I didn't stay there for very long. I did not stay there for very long. I hope that gives you some idea. 1,700, you're above average. 1,750, you're doing pretty good. You're doing pretty good. You're definitely winning at a good rate at 1,750. You're like you're making ticks online, and then 1,800 or higher, you're just killing it. You're just killing it. Morning, Maelstrom MTG. Good morning, David Nielsen. Just saw your vid. Things are going crazy. Things are going very crazy, and it looks like it can get worse. It's hard to see if anything's going to adapt because the deck is so fast. Like between the Gemstone Caverns and Simian Spirit Guide, I mean, they can get really aggressive. And with the control magic, with the counter spells and stuff like that, the deck has a lot more control. Not to mention, you could like ramp into turn 2 Teferi Time Raveler, and now your opponent's Cascade spells are dead. So it's like, it's a perfect card in the mirror, right? Teferi Time Raveler. We got Teferi Time Raveler here. Each opponent can't cast spells. Sorry, each opponent can cast spells only anytime they could cast a sorcery. So if you cascade into Tibalt's Trickery or into Tibalt Cosmic Imposter, Teferi will just say no. Nope. No. You're not allowed to do that. Sorry. No, take that crap back. So Teferi Time Raveler is actually a pretty good card against the combo, but if you ran... So, like... Thank you, Teferi, for saving us. But unfortunately, at the same time, it's being abused in the Valki decks as well. Unfortunately. Long time no see, Zhao Victor. Welcome back. Up past the Dom, good afternoon. Your new Tibalt video was super fun. The intro is exactly what went through my mind when I saw the list yesterday. Exactly. It's like, oh, what the heck? It basically just took an Uro pile and put the combo in. I mean, that's essentially what it is. That's all that they did. I mean, we can look at a few of them right now. There are variations of the deck. Where have I gone? I want to select modern. I can't find the results. Hold on. Let's see, tournament results. There we go. Okay, hold on. Sorry, I was a little slow there. Okay, so this is Doom switches. So if you saw my video, this was what he's running. What is this big ad on the left? How do I get rid of this? Whatever. So Valki, God of Lies. So basically, basically, like it's an Uro pile, right? You have Uro, you have Omnath, you have Teferi Time Raveler. You're playing with Force Negation, Cryptic Command. You've got Mystic Sanctuary. So you have like unlimited number of these cascade spells. So you Violent Outburst. If it gets countered or fails, well, you can try Ardent Plea. If it gets countered and fails. Now, I'm not talking about the spell specifically. I'm talking about the Valki, God of Lies that we cascade into. I mean, not to mention, we could take the option against certain Force Negation decks to just take a Valki, look at your hand, take your Uro, because like in the mirror, this still seems pretty good. But if all else fails, you Mystic Sanctuary the Cascade spells back on top of your deck over and over again. So that was Doom Switch's list. Oh, I should go to the tournament. Okay, let's look at the tournament. And now there are variations. So here's another variation, playing with Bone Crusher Giant instead as a removal spell, which is probably just not very good in the mirror because it's like it's not a very relevant creature. I think Doom Switch might have had a leg up on the metagame because his version was more controlling and the spells were more relevant in the mirror, whereas Bone Crusher Giant is just relevant against like other decks. Like Supreme Verdict against a Valki is not very relevant. Doom Switch played with less Supreme Verdict, so this is like seems like a good card, but in the mirror it's just a liability. 3 Fairy Time Revelers, like good, but like you want more of these in the mirror. So I think that's one thing that separated Doom Switch's version over the other versions. This was super refined and tuned for the mirror, like maxing out onto Fairy. No, almost like one Dismember, maybe for an Omnath, but basically everything else is relevant. Brazen Borrower to bounce your Tibalt. I mean, Uro is still just a good value card or whatever, but basically no other dead cards. So what else? What are some other differences here? This had Far and Away, which is not too bad. Target player sacrifices a creature. And also, again, you used to be able to cascade into the spell. Now you can't do that anymore because the converted mana cost is considered 5. And that's the rule change that we're waiting for on the double face cards. Sideboard 1 Gemstone Caverns, Mystical Dispute, Timely Reinforcements. Again, I have no idea if this is good or not. Slayline looks good. Leyline of the Void looks good. Just do everything for no mana. This is a no mana deck. We're not going to spend mana. We're not going to spend mana. We're not going to spend mana. We're going to spend mana where it's going to cost us a card. Do you see Chief's video on how to fix Modern? I have not seen the video. I know it exists, though. I'll go check it out. Do you think Dwarves Tribal would be decent anytime soon with the new support that they're getting? No, because they still don't have enough pieces. Magda is fucking broken. It is. She is. She is really, really good. This card is hyper busted. This is a ban-worthy card. I'll just say it's a ban-worthy card. But the problem for dwarves is they don't have enough dwarves, period. They need enough dwarves in this game to make good use out of Magda. Magda is hands down super busted. The problem with the dwarf tribe is that they don't have dwarves. Like, we need a dwarf set that literally just makes random dwarves. You may not even need that many good dwarf cards, but you need enough to make a 75, or at least a main deck 60. So that's the problem with dwarves right now. And until they have like enough density of like, you know, they need like, I don't know, a 1 mana dwarf, a few 2 mana dwarves. The dwarves are clunky or they're supreme garbage. There's just very few available. Someone submitted a dwarf deck to me on Coffee and MTG a few times, and when we look up the dwarves, it's just not much out there. This dwarf is busted, but you need a little bit more help, in my opinion. You need more help to fill in the cracks and over. So the thing is, one day dwarves is going to be a thing, but you can never say it's going to be anytime soon because you depend on maybe like another 3 or 4 or 5 more years of cards being printed for enough dwarf cards to be part of the card pool. Maybe take another 10 years, to be honest. I mean, we've already played. Magic's been around for like 30 years, and Modern just has almost no dwarf cards. We need to go back to. Do we need to go back to Dominaria? Is that where all the dwarves are? Is that where all the dwarves are? How do you think Tibalt's Trickery compares to Neobrand? I think it's better. I think Neobrand could not stand the test of time. I think Tibalt's Trickery does a little bit better job than Neobrand, and also I think it's an easier combo to pull off. You can get most of the value. I think it will perform comparatively if you surprise the metagame. Like, Neobrand has the same problem with Tibalt's Trickery. It can't be counterspells. Can't be Force of Negation. But if the metagame can sleep on those cards, if they're sleeping on the counterspells, then this deck will be a force to be reckoned with. Very important. Have Merfolk ever played with Morphling? It is from Remy's song. Yeah, I saw his song. Played with Morphling. We have never played with Morphling. Not as far as I know. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's a really old build of Merfolk with Morphling. It's possible. I mean, back in the day, and I did play in that era, Morphling was the best creature in the game. you would have, like, combo decks would have 4 Morphling in the sideboard if they were blue, just because if this entered the battlefield, it was GG, it was over. But it was only OP at the time because of how damage worked on the stack. Or sorry, is because once upon a time, damage was put on the stack. These days, damage just happens, and then you find out, and then if your creature has enough damage on it, it dies or lives. Whereas back in the day, when the damage happened, you then had a chance to respond to damage on the stack. So, for example, if your creature was 3 toughness and 3 damage was being dealt to it in combat, you could then respond to the damage with a pump spell, for example, to save your creature, and that's what made Morphling like so powerful and invincible. So what you can do is you can attack. If you have let's assume you have infinite mana, you can attack for 5 in the air because there's an ability you give +1 plus not -1 until end of turn. But then what you could do is you can pay a blue to untap Morphling, and then you can block. And it doesn't matter how much damage is being dealt to Morphling. You can pump up Morphling to... Oh, no. What the big thing is it could kill 5 toughness creatures. Because you can untap it, pump it up to a 5/1 creature. Then damage happens. You dealt 5 damage to your opponent's creature. And then, like, whatever damage is being dealt to Morphling. But damage on the stack, you can then pump up the toughness of your Morphling so that it would survive in combat. So Morphling was busted back then. Definitely not as with damage on. I mean, it's probably even with damage on the stack now. I don't think this creature is anything special. 5 fucking mana for a 3/3 creature. Get the hell out of here. You need like 6 mana just to make sure that it has Shroud available. This would not stand the test of time today, but back then it was like OP. It's funny that this is OP. Other cards that were OP back then were like Masticore. Got fooled. Did not recognize this art. This was OP at the time. This was a very expensive rare. 4 mana for a 4/4 creature. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may choose and discard a card from your hand if you don't sacrifice Masticore. Holy fuck. Uro is looking at this thing like, you have to discard cards to stay in existence? What's up with that? But you could pay 2 mana to regenerate Masticore. You could pay 2 mana to also deal a damage to target creature. What a clunky walking ballista this is. But for some reason back then, if you had 4 mana and 1 card in hand, I mean, this card was unbeatable. It was just unbeatable. Anyway, that was a blast. Does anyone remember Masticore and Morphling back then? Was Spiritmonger OP? I mean, I was there. I remember this was a... It might have been an okay standard card, but I mean, I played a lot of extended back then. That was my format of choice. It was still a pretty expensive card. Like, it was pretty clunky even for the time. I remember playing this era. Oh, the good old Masticore. Psychotog. Psychotog is another creature that used to dominate, but today just looks silly. Well, it was great in standard, and it might have been good in some other formats I'm not thinking about. Psychotog, anyone? Yeah, like we go back. Let's go look at Psychotog. I mean, I actually played this deck in standard back in the day. What an ugly art. We want the what the fuck ugly alien bullshit is this? Here we go. We want that sort of, not a sliver looking thing, but you know, I don't know, the art of the time period is like this. So Psychotog has this ability: discard a card from your hand. Psychotog gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Remove 2 cards in your hand, in your graveyard from the game. Psychotog gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So the combo at the time was you played Upheaval. Upheaval just printed at the time. We're gonna see Upheaval or what? But okay, everyone knows what Upheaval is. You like bounce everything back to your hand. Come on. Where's like a box somewhere? People who bought this also bought this. So there's Upheaval, which also came from Odyssey. So it was around the same era. And the idea is when you had enough lands in play, you floated mana and you played Upheaval. So you needed like 9 mana in play, which was possible. It was a blue-black control deck, basically. So you floated the mana, you bounced everything to your hand. With the floating mana, you play like Psychotog. whatever, you might discard some stuff, and then you like kill your opponent next turn by discarding and then removing cards from your graveyard from the game. Anyway, it was a hell of a time back then. Hell of a time. Spearmonger could be playable in Modern? Not a fucking chance. Spearmonger is clunky nonsense. Was this a community built card? I think this was made by the community. Frankly, we failed. It could have been better. Regenerate's probably the best ability on this. Spearmonger becomes the color of your choice until end of turn. Who cares? What does that matter? Get around pro red stuff? Or sorry, pro green and pro black? Wild Mongrel. That, yeah, that's going, we're going back when we talk about Wild Mongrel. Was Squee Goblin Nabob real? Like, did decks really use that? I know Metalworker was a big card back then. Humans are back in the meta. Yes, they are, because they have a reasonably good... They have a lot of game against the... Well, I mean, they have very good matchup against the Tibalt's Trickery deck. I don't know what their matchup is like against Valki, God of Lies, but like the Valki combo decks. But I imagine they have like a pretty reasonable game against them as well, especially if they have a Thalia out. Or just like Meddling Mage. Remember Urza? Well, I mean, what do you mean, like the super old Urza? There wasn't an Urza card, right? Urza was just in the imagery for the most part. Dustin asks, what good cards do you hope will be reprinted in Time Spiral Block Remastered? My biggest hope is Tarmogoyf, since it was in the Future Sight set. I have no idea what's in the set. And I thought, isn't it just like the same set all over again, but they have some new promotional cards like Chalice of the Void and the Old Border? So I don't know the specifics, but I was under the... I mean, yeah, maybe they'll print Tarmogoyf in the Old Border. Maybe that's a possibility. That'd be pretty sick. Does anyone want Tarmogoyf Old Border? Old image on Old Border? That'd be neat. Does anyone remember Modern Is It Phoenix? Yeah, me neither. It was a trash deck. I mean, I remember, well, back in the day with Faithless looting. It wasn't too long ago, though. Oh, is Spiritmonger not legal? Oh yeah, it's not Modern legal. Look at that, it's illegal. If it was legal, it wouldn't see play. Let's be serious. Like, the bar for 5 mana cards is like so fucking high. What 5 mana card sees play? It's got to be like, I mean, a bar is like Primeval Titan. If you have 6 mana, you play that. And then there's that card, ETB. You gain life or draw a card. I can't remember what it is. Like, and if it blocks or attacks, it gets some value. There's very, very few 5 mana cards in Modern. Very, very few. If they ban Simian Spirit Guide, does Oops All Spells become awful, or does it continue as a good, consistent turn 3 deck? It will be a deck that would depend on the metagame not being prepared for it. So, like, if the metagame is, like, super cold to creature spells, creature combo spells, and also there's no graveyard hate, it would still be a good deck. I don't think Oops All Spells is a good argument, though, for keeping Simian Spirit Guide. I mean, that's the exact type of deck that Simian Spirit Guide... Or that's the type of deck that would get Simian Spirit Guide banned. Elder Gargroth and Glorybringer. Yeah, the bar is really high. So at 5 mana, like, you need value. So you see the similarities between these two and Primeval Titan. If you spend basically 5 or more mana, you need immediate value out of the card. You can't just be like, okay, here's my creature, and I hope to untap and do something like Spiritmonger. It does nothing when it enters the battlefield. In fact, you need 6 mana just to protect it from removal spells. But if you talk about, you're looking at Elder Gargroth, you're looking at Glorybringer. Elder Gargroth enters. Hold on, what is Elder Gargroth? Is there immediate value? I want to say there is. Maybe I'm wrong. Actually, there's no immediate value. There's actually no immediate value out of Elder Gargroth. There's likely value, but it's not guaranteed. That being said, at a 6/6 creature for 5 mana, it dodges all the removal in the format outside of Path to Exile. Threat Chest actually sees some play in Tron. That is immediate value. Anyway, the bar is high. The bar is so high for 5 mana cards. Although this one sees play in a Tron deck, so maybe it's a bit cheating. Yeah, it's just a blocking attacking. There's actually no ETB there. Plow Under. That that's a throwback. Plowhunter used to be like a premium removal spell, or not, premium pawns a card. I'm gonna dig back to see if there's any questions that I missed. Dwarves plus changelings? That's interesting. I mean, I didn't look at all the red changelings available, but in general, the changelings suck. So I would not... I can't imagine the changelings would make up enough. I mean, maybe. I never looked at them. But I can't imagine the changelings make up enough to make the dwarves deck good. Like, the dwarves needs, like what Ammon says, dwarves needs a strong 1-drop to be a real tribe. I mean, every tribe needs a strong 1-drop. And, I mean, the recipe for tribes, like, you need 1 good 1-drop, at least 1. And you need, like, basically 2 lords, I would say. Because at the end of the day, you're winning with the creatures, and you gotta get it done, people. You gotta get it done. You gotta get in that damage, and you're only gonna do that with lords and not grizzly bears. Fred asks, do these decks need Simian Spirit Guide? I just see Tibalt as a powerful 3-mana planeswalker like Oko, and Oko definitely never played Simian Spirit Guide. No, but Oko played with ramp anyway. There were 2 mana. There was turn 2 Okos. There was like turn 1 mana dork into Oko, and that's better. See, the thing is, these Cascade decks, they cannot use a mana dork in their deck because otherwise they'll cascade into the mana dork. So that's how they're like cheating around that, so they can ramp into their Cascade spell without hitting a mana dork, because Oko back then played with Noble Hierarch, played with Gilded Goose. So there were still turn 2 Okos. And you could still argue that turn 3 Tibalt Cosmic Imposter is still way too strong. It's a 7-mana planeswalker on turn 3 is still fucking busted. And the decks can play really efficiently. Like, if they have to, they'll play with Bone Crusher Giant. They'll play with Shriekamaw. They'll play with Dismember. They'll play with spells that won't get tripped up by the Cascade spells. You know what I mean? So they'll slow the game down so that they get their turn 3 Tibalt Cosmic Imposter and just completely run away with the game. 7 dwarves. It's a card that you're allowed to have 7 of in your deck. Actually, I mean, this is like not a bad solution. We just need more cards like this, I guess. So 2 mana, 7 dwarves gets +1/+1 for each other creature named 7 dwarves you control. A deck can have up to 7 cards named 7 dwarves. Maybe this plus a bunch of clone effects would be good. It's not. They're technically like lords if you have enough of these. They are lords, right? Like, they would just act like lords, but only for themselves, not any of the other dwarves. I don't know, maybe we'll... So we need more cards. Like, I looked up, if I remember, I looked up the dwarves. There's, like, almost nothing. Creature, dwarf. You know what? I don't care the colors. Legal, modern. Let's say less than 4. There's just not much to work with here. 36 cards, a lot of them being white, a lot of them with like really janky abilities. 1 toughness, so very weak. I'm surprised that there's so many like... No, actually there's not that many 1 toughness. This one's good. DePaul is amazing. The problem is they're all at... Look how many are 3 mana. So many 3 mana ones. Look, creature tokens you control within that are enchanted or equipped. That was another problem when I was looking up the dwarves. They're so relevant to equipment and vehicles, which is not good because the more vehicles you add to your deck, like the weaker the deck gets. This one might be okay. It's 2 spells in 1. 7 dwarves, probably one of the better ones. But again, 3 mana. You need more stuff at 2 mana. We need a 1 mana one. This sort of sucks. 1 mana, 1/3. That's no good. Again, SRAM is like a really good card, but only if you like fill your deck with auras and equipments and vehicles. So outside of that, not very good. Actually, Toolcraft Exemplar is a very good creature. But again, you need to put like artifacts in your deck. Maybe it's not too bad. At the beginning of your combat, if you control an artifact, which could be Ether Vial, I don't know, maybe I should make a red-white dwarves deck, see what it does. Maybe we'll do... I'm going to write that down. Maybe we'll do that today. We'll quickly make a dwarf deck. I'm thinking about making more like one game series decks. Like I'll just play, I'll build a deck really quickly, and instead of playing an entire league, I just play one match. See what the deck is like. If we get mana screwed, fuck it. We get mana. I'll play another one, but outside of that, just get one game in and that's it. Throw it on YouTube afterwards. Mishra, yeah, just to throw Mishra's Bobble and everything. Is it clone dwarves possible? Most dwarves are old school. Really, the best ones are in white. That's very strange. Like for a tribe that at least flavor-wise are always in the mountains. I feel like dwarves should be a much more of a red card than a white card. I bet if we go to what's it called? If we looked up Legacy, there'd be a lot better dwarves to be available. How soon will the Valki rule be updated for balancing issues? I don't know. I just don't know. Like I said in my last video, I have a feeling they're trying to work on it right now. They're updating Magic the Gathering Online and Arena right now to change the rules. And the moment that they've got all the bugs figured out, then they'll make an announcement that they're changing the rule. That's when it's going to happen. And it could be a while. Remember how long it took with Companion? Although Companion took a little while for them to definitely know that there was a problem. Like the cards were good, but it was still like a meta game, even though Lurrus was clearly like the one of the best decks. But here it just looks like Valki is just destroying the meta game. People don't even want to play. There's so many. I mean, it's similar, I guess. There were a lot of content creators that like gave up at that time. They started playing other formats. But I don't know. We can never tell. We don't know how long it's going to take them to update the rules on the clients. In my opinion, that's the #1 issue. I think that's the #1 issue. Although they do have the right to just ban the card until they can fix the issue. Is it worth waiting for the reprint of the fetch lands in Modern Horizons 2 before buying some? Do they drop in value considerably? Yes, they do. They do, actually. And given that we're probably still going to be somewhat quarantined by Modern Horizons 2, I bet you're going to get a good deal. It won't be like huge, but like how badly do you need the fetch lands right now? You know, between now and 4 months from now, like, or when, I don't know when, I guess they come out in like 5 months from now, 5 or 6. The time will go by like this. And then it depends how badly you need a discount. Like if you're really hurting on money, you should just wait. What about vampires? They have strong lords and strong 1-drops. I made a 5-0 with vampires. Vampires is grossly underrated. There's definitely a deck there. I bet if I decide to dump Merfolk and then invest all my time into vampires, tuning it to make a tier 1 deck, I bet I could. I think vampires actually has more than enough tools, way more than enough tools to compete in the modern metagame. They have everything. They literally have everything. You can splash white for all the good hate cards. They have resilient creatures. They have lords. They have good 1-drops. They have everything. Vampires, they have a great planeswalker too with Sorin. They have everything. I'm surprised there has not been someone to try to break vampires. Very surprised. They have everything. I don't. Do I have to repeat that? Vampire. Everyone likes vampires, but for some reason, no one wants to build a like modern competitive vampire deck. They literally have everything. They have no excuses. Kaladesh had a ton of dwarves, so also have at least 2 lords through Magna and Depala. Yeah, well, I mean, the only problem though with Kaladesh is there are a lot of dwarves that were focused on equipment and vehicles. That sort of synergy. Do you play Commander, Nikachu? If so, favorite commander? My commander is Thassa, God of the Sea. Scryfall acting a little slow today. Come on. Everyone's looking up cards. Is everyone looking up Valki on... So this is my commander. I'm so proud of my Thassa. Underrated in my opinion. Underrated. Can make my creatures unblockable. I mean, you know, if you got... I can't remember the merfolk. Where if whenever a merfolk deals combat damage, you draw a card, you can make them unblockable. I mean, unblockable smooths out your draws, indestructible. So if they make a board wipe, your Thassa stays on the battlefield. I love it. I just love mono blue. Gotta love mono blue. Considering going green, I could play. I think Kumena is a fantastic commander. This thing is an OP. And the thing is, like, Commander is a very good commander just because a lot of commander games get dirtily, and this is a really good dirtling card. So everyone's dirtling, and then you're just drawing tons of cards, making your board super big, and of course can also get unblockable damage. This probably was a commander card, just was printed directly in a commander set in a standard set instead of a commander pre-constructed deck. If you put this in a commander pre-constructed deck, you would say, oh, yeah, that's a made for commander card. In my opinion. What are your thoughts on Wizard of the Coast just memeing the Tibalt problem, but radio silence about plans on dealing with it? I mean, like I've said before, I don't think they want to make any announcement until they actually have a clear change. They wouldn't want to say something like, we're changing the rules, but we don't know when it's going to happen. Stay tuned and find out. And they also may not want to strictly ban the card, because, you know, it really sucks when they say, okay, we're banning something. I mean, maybe it would lessen the blow if they say we're banning it until we can fix the rules. The rules shouldn't work like this, but in my opinion, this is why the radio silence. They're going to have radio silence until they have a firm solution in place, ready to be deployed with an update. And when that happens, we're going to hear about it. That's my prediction. Maybe it's a bold prediction. But they'll say, okay, the rules are changing like this, and you'll have an update by Thursday. Something to that effect. Or the update is going to be released today. That is Nikachu's prediction on how this went the moment that you hear about it. And the reason is that the reason they're gonna come out with that update immediately with the announcement is because they were working on it behind the scenes the entire time. This entire week, they're working on it today, because it's a big change to change the rules. Like, any of you software developers out there, I mean, if you tweak the rules like just a little bit, I mean, you're probably gonna screw up a bunch of old cards, right? Like, they're not gonna function in the same way. Like, adventure spells may not function in the same way because they're 2 cards in 1. The old double face cards may not function the same way, and like glitches are gonna happen. The glitches, people. I'm thinking they have a plan. Well, I mean, I'm not saying they're having a plan. They're in damage control mode right now. But they can't like give an update out of nowhere with like bugs and stuff, you know what I mean? So I think this is probably a harder rule change to fix than the Luris one. What is your second channel name again? Also, would you play Arumai as a commander? My second channel is Nikachu MTG Streams. I should probably have that advertised somewhere, and that's where you can find all the Coffee and MTG replays there. Basically, everything that I stream live goes there. I just dump it all there now. Keep that rubbish away from the good stuff. Don't you like my good stuff on my good channel? I keep it separated. What's a room? You know what is the funniest thing? I made one command, or I made 2 commander videos. You didn't spell it correctly. Now I don't know what you're talking about. But like, here's a funny thing about commander players. So I made 2 commander gameplay videos before, and hands down, the #1 question I got from people was like, well, but why don't you play this commander? Like, there's fucking 7, how many commanders are there? Like 1,000? And everyone expected me to play, I don't know, the commander that they play. Why don't you play this commander? Why don't you play that commander? Because I want to play Thassa. That's why. And it's like, and the people are suggesting commanders that aren't even merfolk. Like, I'm a merfolk player. They're suggesting like angels, and they're suggesting angels and humans and all sorts of like legendary creatures that have like nothing to do with like what I care about in Magic. Like, all right, play whatever commander you want. Oh, anyway, I thought it was a funny reaction overall. Maybe the people are just looking for verification, that they're looking for validity for their commander. Like, all the commanders are good, in my opinion. And in fact, what I think is cool, one thing I liked about my mono blue Merfolk Thassa God of the Sea commander deck, I can swap the commander pretty easily. One day, maybe I'm going to have Venser, Shaper Savant as my commander. Maybe one day I'm going to have Teferi. Which Teferi? The 5-mana Teferi creature. Mage of Zalafir, that's what it was. Maybe one day I'm going to have Teferi Mage of Zalafir, and I think that was pretty cool. You swap it out. Like, it's all good anyway. I mean, the whole deck shouldn't be completely validated by just the commander itself. Yeah, looking for commander validation. That's what they're looking for. They're all good. It's a pony format. Do whatever the fuck you want. And it's all about goofing around and having fun. For the most part. Oh, is it Kodama? No, that's completely different from what the person was trying to ask me. Oh, it's Arumi. Oh, this merfolk. The black, blue, and a generic. Exile cards from your graveyard equal to the number of opponents you have. Target creature in your graveyard. Sorry, target card in your graveyard gains Encore until end of turn. The Encore cost is equal to its mana cost. Exile the creature card and pay its mana cost. For each opponent, create a token copy that attacks that opponent this turn. If able, they gain haste. Sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step. If you like this sort of stuff, go for it. Go for it. I mean, it's sort of an excuse to have a blue-black merfolk or / wizard available. It's a little dirtily for my taste, though. It's a little dirtily for my taste. But you know, I've never played with the card, so maybe I'm underrating it. I was just naming random commanders you'd probably never touch. RMI is busted if you want to be so... Okay. Some busted commanders here. Well, here's Dexter, of course, with the vampires. I've definitely been working on my black-white vampires build. It's getting there. At times it can be slow. I'm running 8 3-drops, but 6 pieces of hand disruption. I'll submit again soon for deck review. I gotta play some more vampires. Like, I got a 5-0. I got close to another 5-0. Like I said, vampires has fucking everything. It just has everything. They have access to the they have access to hand disruption if they need it, and they have access to the best white hate cards. Rest in peace. I don't want to say Thalia, but like you know, those sort of they're basically the prison cards. Stony Silence if they need to. If you build Boros Dwarves, Ether Geode Miner plus Solemn Recruit is the best synergy in the tribe. Try to keep that in mind. When does Azorius Merfolk? What does that Azorius Merfolk list that made 16th place? If you want to see that, that's Cactus. Cactus Fishmock probably isn't here. He's usually in chat here. So it's basically a Merfolk list with Unsettled Mariner. That's basically it, and some Curse Catchers. Pretty simple design. He said Unsettled Mariner did a lot of work for him, but he lost to Jund. I think Jund Shadow in the top 8. I'm still very suspicious of this card. I'm not I'm not a believer. I will say this though. I think this card is absolute trash because there's a lot of decks where it's a Grizzly Bear. Let's say Tron, not Eldrazi Tron because they've got blocking Ballista and taxing is useful. The Titan decks, it's just a Grizzly Bear. But those decks don't see play right now. So maybe Unsettled Mariner will match up a little bit more often against decks that you want it to match up against, like Burn and Prowess. And there's still Burn and Prowess out there. So Unsettled Mariner, maybe a little bit better value right now. Less dead matchups. 2 Spell Pierce, 3 Force Negation. So basically, you know, reasonably good clock and interaction early on in the game. Oh, here's an interesting thing. Oh, okay, I missed the Merfolk Trickster. So just basically like general Merfolk and some counter spells. I'm not sure what Cactus of Vishmock's matchups were like, though. And no Luris, because it's playing with Glasspool Mimic and Mara Reejery, but Chalice of the Void, Dispel, Pithing Needle, Relic, Oriok Champion, 2 Deprive, 3 Skyclave Apparition. And he's apparently been doing very well. He went he said he's gone 4-1, 5-0, 4-1, 4-1, 4-1. Doing very well with the list. But I would also argue Merfolk should be doing very well, period, because this is the metagame for Merfolk. Like, I look at these lists. I mean, this is a very good metagame for Merfolk. I haven't played a lot against the blue Valki list, but I assume that we're going to have a good matchup there. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's going to be good. Like, Boggles is good. Mill is good. Hammer Time probably is not that good, especially with our new versions. Is not great. Uro is great. I don't know what this is. This boom or bust? Boom and bust? Oh, this probably is not that good. Well, I don't know. Can't tell if this is going to be a good or bad matchup. This is the mono white Helia deck. Has Walking Ballista, so that sucks. But I'm very hopeful that Merfolk has very well positioned in the metagame right now. What's your thought on Disrupting Shoal as Force Negation replacement? Oh, as a replacement, I think it's good. I think it's a reasonable replacement. It's not that great, but it's a reasonable replacement. Like, some of the things that you want to force a negation are like Teferi Time Raveler, Cryptic Command, and it's easier on force negation than it is on Disrupting Shoal. You need like 6 mana in play, I think, to Disrupting Shoal a Cryptic Command. But it's a reasonable replacement. It's a reasonable replacement. What makes a good Merfolk matchup? Islands. If they have islands, that makes for a pretty good Merfolk matchup. All right, everyone. You know what time it is. It's deck list review time, people. All right, so if you want your list, you want your 75 to get some feedback both from myself and the community, submit it to me. Do you go into my description, find the link to my Discord, go to my Discord channel, join my Discord channel, my wonderful Discord channel. Go to the channel Decklist Review. Now, in Decklist Review, enter the command, !review deck, space, then paste the URL to your deck list here, and you will be eligible at random to be chosen for Decklist Review. And as we wait for people to submit their deck list, we are going to begin by thanking my sponsors, starting with FusionGamingOnline.com, my favorite local game store and place to buy all your paper singles. You better believe all the new cards that I need for my decks, I buy them from Fusion Gaming Online. The deal of the week this week, save 15% off Jumpstart singles and sealed products. So if you need some Crater Hoofs or Muxuses for your... well, not for Historic, that's not a paper format, but for your Commander decks, you can find them at FusionGamingOnline.com. And if you want to support the channel while also getting an extra 5% off your purchases, don't forget to use coupon code Nikachu. That will help give you an extra 5% off and also supports the channel. We're also going to thank Mana Traders, the premier place to rent Magic cards online. Basically, the hands down one of the only reasons why the metagame changes so quickly, because if you want to play the best deck in the format without the fear of it losing all your money when the deck gets banned, you want to rent the deck with Mana Traders. You can support the channel by using my Mana Traders link in the description below, or you can save 15% off your first 3 months by using my coupon code Nikachu. I thank Mana Traders for being our sponsor. And also thank Mana Traders for taking the bullet when cards get banned or rules get changed. Mana Traders likes getting fucked by Wizards of the Coast. They get fucked so you don't have to. What is my opinion on humans in the meta? It's good now. It's got good matchups. Mostly because Tron, Eldrazi Tron, and the Titan decks disappeared because of the new basically Tibalt combo decks. All variations. Oops. Let's go! Klein Likong with the message. Some nice opal-less affinity. I like the sound of that. I think affinity is definitely playable, but no one is trying to make it work. The people just don't want to even try. I mean, if hardened scales can work, and I do think hardened scales can work, I think affinity could still be there. I mean, all it's missing is Mox Opal. That's it. And the fact that there is no artifact hate in the metagame right now suggests that there's a good opening for affinity to be a real thing. Memnite, Ornithopter, Signal Pest, Arcbound Ravager, Steel Overseer, Vault Scourge, Master of Ethereum, 4 Galvanic Blast, 2 Welding Jar, 4 Springleaf Drum, 4 Cranial Plating, absolutely. All that glitters. Giant creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact and or enchantment you control. This is a very good idea. So you have more than one big payoff than just cranial plating. You also have this is basically cranial plating, right? Except that, you know, if the creature dies, you're fucked. But still a second cranial plating in the deck. It's almost like using, you know, it's like Colossus Hammer, basically. Like Colossus Hammer plays Colossus Hammer, and many cards that find Colossus Hammer, you need like basically more hammers in your deck. You have your cranial plating, and now you have all that glitters. Blink Moth, Darksteel Citadel, Glimmer Void, Godless Shrine, Spire of Industry, 1 Spire Bluff Canal. That is a funny split. You play with Godless Shrine, which is a shock land, but you play Spire Bluff Canal, which is not a shock land. Shouldn't you play with... What's the black-white check land? Not check land. Fast land. What's the black-white fast land? Like, there's no point to this thing in the deck, right? Or is there a reason that I don't know about that requires you to own a swamp? I don't think so. There's nothing. I think that's the only upgrade. You just change the shockland to... What is it called? Concealed Courtyard. That is it. There you go. Upgrade the mana base to this. I think this is a really good idea. No, okay. The only thing I'd be a little concerned about is like how many... how far you're stretching your mana. So we do have Springleaf Drum, Spire Bluff Canal, Spire of Industry can add anything. We have Glimmer Void, that's fine. So we have 4... See, that's the thing where Mox Opal filled the crack in, right? Mox Opal, like, really made these decks 5-color decks. And you're basically like Jeskai. You're trying to push Jeskai, but you might be thin on a mana base to do it. Spire of Industry is good. Glimmer Void is good. Springleaf Drum is good. If you get 14, I guess 13 is good enough. So you got a blue and a red, so that's 13. Black and a white. Okay, it's close. Your mana base is... I wish you had one more, but I guess there's just nothing else we could do here. Interesting that you decide on Blink Moth over Ink Moth, and is it better than, say, Is Darksteel Citadel that important? I would think having Ink Moth Nexus is actually really important for a deck like this. I would highly consider... Maybe it's a budget thing because your deck is relatively cheap, but there's a lot of scenarios where you're up against an infinite life, for example, and you need to be able to beat it, or you're up against a Ad Nauseam, and they put Phyrexian Unlife on the battlefield. You need to kill them with Infect immediately. And you could do that with Ink Moth Nexus instead of, say, Darksteel Citadel. Well, no Ink Moth because it seems that we need to spend some mana on, like, colored sources. I don't know if this is clearly better. Because worst case scenario, let's say you need to sack things to an Arcbound Ravager. You could probably just activate your Ink Moth and sacrifice it if you had to. Lurrus is possible, but that would be just another deck. You'd have to remove Master of Ethereum. But Lurrus is definitely possible in this deck. That's a very good direction to take, and then you would just scrap maybe one of the colors. Like, how much... Like, look, 1 Spell Pierce, 1 Metallic Rebuke. I don't know if that's worth the blue splash. I think Master of Ethereum is worth the blue splash. This thing is very big and very good in the deck. Very, very good. So Maddie's like, I'd play both. Also, thanks, Maddie, for representing us on Facebook. Really appreciate it there. Appreciate everyone who shows up on all the social media platforms. But this is just to go to show, we've got the core deck of Affinity here. Like, it's all there. Okay, you don't have as many explosive starts, but you know what? The fact of the matter is, we've lost Karn the Great Creator out of the format. Like, it's falling in popularity significantly, and there's no artifact hate out there. Now's a good time for Affinity to come out and play. I think this, so anyway, list as it is, pretty good list. I'd highly consider just dumping Metallic Rebuke and Spell Pierce for something else. Or maybe you can get a second Rebuke. Rebuke is not bad. Rebuke is pretty strong. Spell Pierce is awkward. Spell Pierce is tough. but outside of that, like there would be it would be really nice to see the Lurrus version of this deck, because you can start popping out like Arcbound Ravager from your graveyard. And well, I don't know how valuable that is, to be honest. You can definitely get stuff back from your graveyard. If they blow up the cranial plating, well, it's gonna come back. Couldn't Great Furnace or Seed of Synod be played in this deck? Problem with that one, Dustin Lee, is that those cards are banned. That's right. They're on the banned list because people are afraid that if those cards get unbanned, that Affinity is going to take over without their Mox Opal. I mean, if all their lands can be sacrificed, they're just going to completely clobber everyone. Despite the fact we can see how they want to play, they want to be the old 5-color deck that they used to be. You see, they want to be able to play the blue, the red, the white, the black. That's what made Affinity, but people don't realize that they can't play all those lands. They just can't. They need to play the Blink Moth Nexus, the Darksteel Citadel, in my opinion, the Ink Moth Nexus, the Glimmer Voids, the Spire of Industries. Like, I don't even know if you unbanned all the artifact lands that they would even play many of these things. Oh shit, was this Pauper? No, it was Modern. Whew. Scared me. I saw the word Pauper in the comments section. I was like, oh shit, am I suggesting things for the wrong format? I don't think Tempered Steel is good. It's like these auras are not that great. Artifact creatures you control get +2/+2. Not a fan of these, to be honest. These like Lord enchantment cards. There's a reason they don't see play like ever anywhere, because it's not a threat by itself. So decks with removal just have to kill everything around the Tempered Steel, and they can just ignore it. Card advantage is a thing in Modern. Anyway, thanks for the list. Sweet list, and I think, in my opinion, like Affinity is, it probably needs to be worked on, but I bet it can compete in the metagame. Especially since Karn the Great Creator is not very prevalent right now. I have no idea if it can compete with the Valki decks, but maybe it can, because it can go wide. I mean, you have an Arcbound Ravager on the battlefield. Like, what is the Valki going to do? What are they going to do? Oh yeah, double white is also tough. Well, maybe not that tough if you're you've played with enough of the 5-color, the multicolor lands. All right, let's get to another deck list. Congratulations, Rookux. You're the next person for deck list review. Modern. And this deck is going to be displayed on the fucking worst website to review decks on deck list review, deckstats.net. That's right, hands down worst website to feature deck lists on. Look at the cards. Look, this is what they show us. Look at that tiny garbage. At least what the card does is pretty visible. All right, so what do we got here? Speak the future. Talk to me. I'm living in the past. All right, we got, looks like some sort of Izzet deck. Scalding Tarn, Snow-Covered Island, Snow-Covered Mountain, Spire Bluff Canal, 2 Steam Vents, Chromatic Star, sacrifice Chromatic Star, add 1 mana of any color. When Chromatic Star is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, draw a card. Desperate Ritual. Metamorphose. Is this just Storm? Empty the Warrens, 1 Grape Shot, 2 Past in Flames, 4 Sleight of Hands. Oh, we got a little bit of spice once we get to the creatures. Burgi, God of Storytelling. Oh god. Okay, so Burgi, God of Storytelling, 3 mana, 3/3. Whenever you cast a card, cast a spell, add a red mana until end of turn. Until end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. Creatures you control can boast twice during each of your turns rather than once. Discard a card, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play those cards this turn. I'll admit that second ability is fucking gas. You just discard a card. Exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play those cards this turn. That's pretty strong. I'm still not in love with this card, though. It's vulnerable to everything. It's pretty clunky for a Storm deck. Golem Electromancer and 2 Thassa's Oracle. What the fuck? What is going on here? 2 Blood Moon, 3 Ensnaring Bridge. That's actually not bad tech for a Storm deck. I'm surprised they never play with Ensnaring Bridge, especially since like They can totally use it, right? Why doesn't Storm play Ensnaring Bridge? I would be so fucking terrified of this card. I mean, probably Merfolk is not something that they're trying to beat, but I bet there are decks that... Oh, you know what the problem is? They can't empty their hand. That's why. Like, Ensnaring Bridge depends on you to have a hand that's empty. But maybe you'll just do that against the right deck. Hope of Girapur. Lightning Bolt, Vandal Blast. So, I mean, my only fear is that you're sort of screwing... I have no idea. What is the point? Burgi and Thassa's Oracle is nice, but how does it go? Exile the top... You can't exile your library. Because you have to discard a card, and you just exile the cards. You don't draw them. So, you let's say you have 4 cards in your hand. You just discard 4 cards. Okay, you exile 8 cards off the top of your library, and then that's it. You don't get through your deck. I like building the wackiness. I want to storm off or discard through the deck to Thassa's Oracle. Yeah, but like, what do you do when you discard to Thassa's Oracle? Because you can't draw your deck. Or I don't know how you draw your deck. Or maybe you thought you can discard cards from your hand for forever, but it doesn't work like that. I'm definitely not missing anything here. This is definitely not how this is working. Cantrip into empty library? Yeah, but how? Storm usually doesn't draw into their entire deck. I mean, they do have a Chromatic Star here. How do they bring it back? I don't know how to draw their entire... I don't know how they draw their entire library. I mean, technically... Like, okay, so technically... Yeah, if you really combo off and draw your entire deck, it's like Thassa's Oracle is just like a clunkier version of Grape Shot. Burgi adds mana. Whenever you... Okay, so whenever you cast a spell, add red. Until end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. But you need to constantly draw cards for red mana. So the point is, you just continuously draw all your card draw spells. Would that really work, though? Eventually, you're just going to hit a bunch of... I mean, it might. I mean, I remember this card, if the fact that you dig 2 cards deep, it's very similar to... No, but you keep... Okay, so let's say you play a cantrip. Okay, you draw a card, then you can discard it. Okay, so it's very similar to Jeskai Ascendancy. And that card, that's a bullshit card. Jeskai Ascendancy. Actually, maybe we look deeper than Jeskai Ascendancy. So this Burgi card seems very similar to Jeskai Ascendancy, where you would play a cantrip and you got to loot, so you got to look 1 card deep. Whereas this is a bit different. You actually go 2 cards deep. So every single time you play Sleight of Hand, you look 2 cards deep. And then you put a card in your hand, then you discard it to exile 2 cards. But you might have just end up with a lot of red mana, not like any blue mana. You know what I mean? Yeah, basically, it's hoping never to run out of gas. Okay, the only recommendation I might make is like, maybe you should not... Oh, maybe you need 2 Thassa's Oracles, because if you get into a situation with Burgi... Well, there's two problems. Like, hold on, you discard a card, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play. You can play both of them. That's pretty sick. Actually, that's real gas, to be honest. I might be underestimating this card. I bet that there is some real combo deck with this that hasn't been discovered. That's in like the Jeskai Ascendancy shell. Discard a card, exile top 2 cards of your library. You may play those cards this turn. I'm very surprised we haven't seen a deck break out with Burgi yet. Like, even if you had to wait to turn 4 to play Burgi and hold up a mana, you basically, theoretically, could go off. I guess the problem is that it's 3... She's 3 mana. and you really like you have to hope that you untap with her. Nikachu, the discard stuff is 5 CMC, the artifact side. Oh, you know, there's a second side to her. What is... Okay, let's look at Bergie. I was only looking at the front half. Then the artifact, a Harnfell, Horn of Bounty. Discard a card, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play those cards this turn. So if you go to the late game, you could potentially just have the same effect, but protected from creature removal. Interesting. So here's the deal. I think it's a powerful idea. I have no idea if this is the right shell for it. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. Because you have a lot of rituals, and maybe you have a better... Well, I guess what it is, you're not always going to have Bergie in your hand, so you have at least... You could combo off with Bergie, but you could also just combo off with your Brawl and Goblin Electromancer. This seems like just a more janky way to win with Storm, whereas maybe there's another deck that can fit Bergie anyway. The 3-mana creature doesn't let you loot? Oh! See, here's the problem with fucking deckstats.net. I'm looking at this whole blob of words as if this is all on the one card, but they're dividing it with these 2 brackets to represent the back half of this thing. Okay, so this card got a lot worse really fast. This card's actually quite poor. I take back everything I said. Scrap this card. It's just way too expensive. If you depend on, I mean, whatever. It's a janky way to win, I guess, but it's literally 5 mana, which whatever. Maybe you can ritual it in play, but it's a very janky way to win. It will work though. It should work because this effect is really powerful. I just wish you got the mana. I thought you got the mana and you got to exile the cards, but you don't get both. You don't get both at the same time. So that's a problem. So if you're discarding cards to exile the top 2 cards, you're going to run out of mana. And then if you have the front side to it, it just doesn't do anything. Whenever you cast spell, you add red mana. But this is just sort of a win more Storm card, because if you have Baral or Goblin Electromancer, it's good by itself. Yeah, now that I actually look at I'm looking at the actual card. This is completely different. That's deckstats.net. That's deckstats.net's fault. We're going to blame it on deckstats.net. And again, this is sort of a dangerous double-sided, double-edged card in a Storm deck, because they actually want to hoard cards in their hand. They don't want to... You fucking idiot. What are you doing? What are you doing? What did you do? Fucking chubby meatball like pushes a jar off the table. Now it was like a potting jar or something. It had a bunch of soil in it. Now there's a bunch of dirt on the ground. Don't you do that again. That has to push all this shit off the table. But I thought I heard glass break. Fortunately, it was just a glass jar, but nothing broke. Anyway, I cannot defend this card anymore. It's just, whatever. You want to play it, you play it. And I know you can get it in play, but like, unfortunately, you need like both halves in play to really make it work. And it's just really expensive. You're just better off playing with like, you know, more copies of Empty the Warrens and Grape Shot. That's all I can say, though. That's all I can say. If you can make it work, like, if you want to play a jank card in a very established, strong modern deck, sure. Maybe you'll get away with it because the deck overall is really strong. And then occasionally you can just win the janky way. But it's definitely not a good card in the deck, because you can't get both sides of it at once unless you have both copies in play. But like, that's a lot to ask for in modern. But good luck with it. Good luck with it. And probably, I mean, I don't know how well this works in the deck, but probably you have to take out Ensnaring Bridge. The rest is fine. Blood Moon is great in Storm. Hope of Girapir is pretty good. Like, these are fine, but Ensnaring Bridge doesn't work because you need to empty your hand, and you don't do that in Storm very often until you like go for your combo victory. Nikachu! Berg is too good, seriously. Anyway, that's going to be it for Coffee and MTG. I'm going to be streaming later today. I'm going to wait for my brother to show up, and then we'll go live on Twitch. We're going to be playing with none other than Mystic Reflection. That's right. Everyone's waiting for me to combo off with Master of Waves. And do you know what? We're going to turn a lot of Valki, Cosmic Imposters, into like Curse Catchers and Kamena Speakers and crap like that. So don't, you're going to be ready for that. That's going to be happening within maybe an hour or so. And yeah, so thank you very much, everyone, for showing up today. If I didn't get your comments, questions, or deck lists, don't worry. We do this, Coffee and MTG, Monday to Friday at 9 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time. And if you love the channel, if you love the show, don't forget, you can support the channel by giving a subscription to twitch.tv/Nikachu MTG. You can also become a patron on Patreon at patreon.com/Nikachu MTG. Or you can join on YouTube. There is a join button on YouTube for everyone watching on YouTube if you want to support the Nikachu Empire. So, as usual, keep brewing up that coffee and let's keep brewing up the magic. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.